Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com and one of our fantastic True Health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 169. Well, we're in for a real treat today. We have with us Jason Seib, who is an expert at the psychology of fat loss. And this is something that is really affecting so many of us. This has been my lifelong struggle, my father's lifelong struggle. I have so many friends who have lost and gained hundreds of pounds. And what is going on? There are diet books galore, there are diet programs, diet surgeries, diet pills, and yet we continue to gain more and more weight. We can't just say it's one thing like, oh, it's sugar, just cut out sugar. I know lots of people that cut out sugar. It didn't solve every problem. There's more to fat loss than simply eating less calories. If it was that easy, Oprah would be a size 6. So what's going on that we are having such a huge problem with this? It's got to be on more than just the physical realm. And Jason is here today to help us look deeper and see what is going on, the mechanics of what's going on beneath just the physical cut some calories or change your macros up to lose weight, and help us to get to this root cause so we can finally not only shed the weight, but achieve and maintain the healthiest body possible. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'd love for you to start by sharing your story. What led you to become this amazing expert? You have been doing this for so many years, and you have your own podcast. You've been on many, many other podcasts. You shared with me that you've been on interviews for the last 7 years. So you're quite the interview expert when it comes to helping people and getting this message out there. So what led you to this field?
Well, I'd like to say that there's some exciting personal thing that happened to me on an emotional level, but it's geekdom is what it is. I started, I guess I kind of was in a bad place around the age of about 19, 20 years old, and I needed a major lifestyle change and moved to a different state, met a person who took me under his wing and taught me how to work out. When I got into the gym, I just immediately went down the geek route instead of the gym rat route, and I was really fascinated, like what makes a body lose fat or gain muscle. And I started. This was back prior to the days when, we're talking 23 years ago, prior to the days when you could just pull up Google and start asking questions. And I was literally going down to the library and looking at microfiche and looking at studies and articles and things. And I started working with various people. Back then it was like typical trainer stuff, trying to get people to gain muscle mass, typically is what it was, young men. And then my interest over time kind of switched over to that more mainstream fat loss thing, and that leads you to working with more women typically. And I over time started to just get really frustrated, and the huge majority of my career is based on frustration. I am where I am today because all of the wrong answers were out there. People that were trying to touch on the right answers sometimes were, but they were never getting even half of the whole picture. So, you'd get somebody that would get something right about nutrition, but they wouldn't have it right about exercise or sleep or stress management or whatever. And then all of that it just paled in comparison to the fact that nobody was talking about what it actually takes psychologically for a person to be able to make these lifestyle changes. Why are these things so hard? Why do we suffer from things like cravings? Why are humans driven to eat lots of hyperpalatable food and then sit down? Are they somehow broken? Are they wrong for that? None of these questions are ever being asked. Ended up in a place where I work predominantly with women, about 95%. I have a wife and three little girls, so some of this stuff gets very close to home for me because I don't want my little girls to go down the path of so many of the women that I've worked with. But this career that I've built is hard to explain to people. People will say to me, "What is it that you do?" And well, I'm an author and a speaker and a fat loss coach, and I guess those are the ways that I make my money. But what is it that I do? Because there isn't really anybody that I know. I feel like I'm to a degree on an island because there isn't really anybody that I know that that has created a job description for this. I guess you could say we have the answers for how somebody loses fat. I created a diet called Alt Shift that is extremely effective at getting people to lose weight, but almost everybody fails anyway. And when they fail, they go, "Wow, I did Alt Shift. It was fantastic. I lost a bunch of weight. I loved it. I felt like I could do it forever." And then I quit anyway. And I have no idea why I quit. And now I can't get back on the wagon. And so I have developed that whole aspect of my career too, working very closely with some fairly big name psychologists and really delving into all of that stuff, and realized that my career is about heads, not bodies. And so we really do both aspects of that stuff where we're trying to figure out exactly what it takes, what kind of person succeeds, and how to turn people into that kind of person, regardless of the protocol. And this industry is not made up like this. You have fat loss people that go, "Here's my diet or my exercise plan," or even both. And then when you can't do it, they do what everybody does. And they go, "Well, you didn't stick to it, so it's your fault." And
Mm-hmm.
even if it is a good protocol, it's not the trainer's fault. They're the person who put together this plan to make you stick to it. So they're technically right. And even if it's a bad protocol, you're going to blame yourself anyway. But then the other side of the equation, you have a bunch of pom pom waving, high kick cheerleading going on, telling everybody that they're beautiful the way they are, and or you can think yourself thin or release the fat. And uh, in my opinion, that was all garbage too. So you had people being left high and dry by their experts because nobody covers both sides of the equation. Nobody's trying to figure out exactly why. You get trainers that'll say some things like, "Well, you need a strong why. What's your why?" And that trite stuff that makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit. There's no real answers behind that stuff. And on the other side of the equation, you've got, well, everybody knows that you just restrict calories to lose weight. So just love yourself and you'll be able to do that. And that's crap too. So I took this stuff very seriously, and I think I'm in the lead in that realm, but it's never going to be super popular, and it's always super hard to market. I mean, where do I go to tell people, as soon as I mention weight loss or fat loss, they think they know what I sell.
Mm.
And so they're immediate, "Oh, it's a diet or it's exercise. Is it diet and exercise? What is it?" Well, yeah, that's a little bit of it. Well, what's the other part? Oh, it's the heads to, oh, so you're going to try to convince me that I'm a good enough person to go ahead and lose the weight? No. so, so I don't know if long story short, I don't know if I'm ever going to write a New York Times bestseller. I'm ever going to be the guy that's on Dr. Oz, but we are dramatically, dramatically changing the lives that we're working with. And that's great because I can look at my little girls and know that I can not only help them avoid all of this, but I can also look them in their eyes and say, "Daddy does good work." So
Mm. You mentioned that you're looking to model the kind of person that succeeds and then helping to teach others how to be that kind of person. In your experience, what kind of person succeeds?
it's super simple. It's the intrinsically motivated person, which is, pretty much nobody. There's there when it comes to intrinsic motivations, you have people that are hurt and want to be out of pain, and that rare person who goes, "Oh, just kind of let my body go. My body deserves better than this. It deserves better. Can you teach me how to get it back to what it deserves?" No, the entire rest of the world, like that might be 1 in 20 people, is what I've come to believe. But I honestly believe it's probably a lower number than that. Everybody else, especially among women, are trying to change the way their body looks for an extrinsic motivation. The motivation says, if I change the way my body looks and then I take it out into the world, people will respond to me differently in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
I will be treated different, or I will be more valued. And first off, all of that is garbage. What happens when you lose weight, the entirety of what happens when you lose weight, is some people pass you in the hallway at work and go, "Hey, you look like you lost some weight." And then it's over. It's it. Nobody kicks in your door, throws money at you, and makes you date movie stars. If your relationship sucks, it doesn't get better unless other things improve with that. And so the motivation to just change the way you look, that extrinsic motivation can't carry you to the finish line. The biggest problem with that is that when that's your motivation, you hate the process. You're doing it all kind of out of spite. You're going, I don't really want to have to do this, but dang it, the world is making me do it. I have to do this because those jerks won't just love me the way I am. And so you may not be consciously thinking this stuff, but that's what's the underlying thought pattern is. And so you go out and you do things that you hate. So you're not intrinsically motivated to do this. You don't do this like you take a shower and brush your teeth. You know, if I told you you were only going to get one shower in the next month, you can only take one shower, you would never go, well, then screw it. It takes 20 showers before people like me. That would be the best shower you ever took in your life because you're intrinsically motivated to take a shower. And you are not intrinsically motivated to do all these other things that you're doing. So you don't do it with a methodology that looks like practice. So when you diet, you go, I'm going to do this thing. And someplace between 2 days and about 3 weeks, you make a mistake, something you call a mistake. You eat a food that wasn't on your plan. And now you've ruined everything. So you quit. You've ruined it. Screw it. I ruined it. Or it's that mentality of, well, I already ate some of this and it wasn't on plan. So I'm going to get in some of the other things that I wanted, like pizza and alcohol and all that. And then I'll start again on Monday. Because you're not intrinsically motivated. You're longing for those other things. You don't see this good meal as something that's as valuable to you as that shower. You don't go, this is worthwhile. You're going, if I do enough of these, I will finally change my body and people will like me. So an example I give of how this could look if you were intrinsically motivated is like when you learn how to play a musical instrument. You don't pick up a violin, drag the bow across the strings a couple of times, hit a sour note, slam the violin back in the case, throw it up in the closet, take off for the obligatory 2 or 3 weeks telling everybody how terrible you are at playing the violin, and then go find a new guru who can make it so that you never make a mistake again when you play the violin. No, you just keep going and you go, I'm not purposely ever going to hit a sour note. I'm not going to absolutely just hit one because it's what I want to do. I want to try to avoid them. But when I do hit them, I learn a way to get around this sour note as quickly as I can until I can play this whole song. So that looks like practice. But what we have in dieting is people who want to be the best violin player in the entire world, but they hate every practice. So every time a practice goes awry on them, they get upset and they quit. And so it's this starting and stopping mentality that goes on for an entire lifetime. And it all boils down to extrinsic motivations. They're doing it for the paycheck of what they believe is going to come from other people, but they're not doing it in any way for themselves. They don't go, I'm going to go on this walk right here because it's good for me and it'll make me feel good and I deserve it. My body deserves to be treated well. They go, I got to go on another walk when I'd rather be sitting on the couch watching TV, because if I can go on enough walks, when we hit about like 10 or 20, that's when I'm going to go jump on the scale and see if it's quote unquote working. And so why are people extrinsically motivated to do all this stuff? Well, I mean, first off, you're programmed to be what you are. If you're overweight in this modern society, you're a massive success. A huge success. You've done everything that your genetics told you to do. You didn't change, the environment did. You ate hyper palatable food whenever you possibly can. You picked the most palatable food. You ate as much of it as you could. You looked around to see if there was any more that you could eat. And then when there wasn't, you found some place to sit down. And that's what every single one of your ancestors has done since the dawn of human times. Except now that we've outsourced all our movement and we have foods like, ice cream that's really, really palatable, and your brain and your taste buds and dopamine and all that go, eat more of that. It's really, really good for you. It's not actually good for you. It's been manufactured to taste good and make those gauges go off, but not actually be good for you. You are out doing what you're supposed to do, and those drives that made it so that you and I can have this conversation because our species survived are literally killing us. But in large part, they're I think more of what they're doing, because people are still living a long time, they're taking away our happiness. They're
Mm.
taking away our ability to feel good, our ability to live with vitality, but probably most importantly for women, our ability to just be happy in our skin. And
Mhm.
so um, it's this. I can paint the picture crystal clear for why it all happens, and I can paint the picture crystal clear of who succeeds. And usually in a 10-minute talk with somebody, I can tell, like, if they're that person, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be easy. You don't even really need me. Here's some instructions. Go do them. You'll be fine. But the process that I do in my day-to-day life and the job that I do in my career is to help people understand all these things and then make these changes. And we do that through meditation and increasing mindfulness and all of that, while we also apply levels of the physical changes to a lifestyle, the exercise and the food changes and all that, that don't overwhelm a person. And we get them to a place where those things start to become habit. But there's lots and lots of little things that people need to understand along the way. Like, for example, you and I, and every single person listening to this podcast, has at some point said, I've been so good on my diet, I deserve a treat. Correct?
Mhm.
Every single person has done that. And when you really stop and think about that, it's pretty much like saying, I've done such a fantastic job cleaning my house, I deserve to throw a big handful of dirt on my living room floor. It's literally the opposite of what you've been working on, but you rationalize it in your head. Why? Because of your extrinsic motivation. So people have to be able to be present in the moment for all of these decisions. They got to get off of cruise control, get present, and then go, wait a minute, I'm coming home from work after a bad day, about to eat some ice cream. I just need some ice cream. I had a terrible day. Wait a minute. Let's stop. Has this ever worked? When I eat ice cream, does my boss suddenly not be an ass? Has this ever worked? Have I ever gotten to the other side of this an hour later and had my day actually be better? Or do I just feel like garbage because I've betrayed myself and my goals? When you're present in these moments and you rationally think these things through, you can get to a place where you can make progress. But we're not getting you there by telling you how wonderful you are and waving pom poms for you. We're getting you there by making you analyze, making you stop and think. You have to have mindfulness for that. You have to be able to get mindful enough to be in the individual moment that you make your decisions, and then able to analyze any place where you do actually make a mistake by looking back at it mindfully and digging through it and going, why did I do that? What made me stand in front of the mirror that morning and rip myself to shreds saying things that I would never say to an enemy, let alone a friend? What made me do that? How could I have changed that situation to make it so that I didn't eat a bunch of garbage at lunch because I was having such a terrible day thinking that everything was hopeless? So you've got to get into all of these things, because handing you a list of rules about what to eat and how to exercise will be pointless for anybody who hasn't dealt with these things. And it's just look around you. Look at who is successful. Show me the people that are losing weight. And when I say successful, I mean losing weight and actually keeping it off. Like, it actually stays off and that person's health continues to improve. It never becomes, whatever they're doing never becomes deleterious to their health. They never fall apart. They actually become that person that you look at and go, wow, that is what human vitality looks like. Point to those people. There are so few of them because this stuff is not being addressed. Did that answer your question? I'm not even sure what your question was anymore.
I love that rant. So, what are some ways that we can become present? So, in that moment when, like, we're about to drive through the drive-through, or we're about to get that pint of ice cream, or we're about to, quote unquote, treat ourselves. What are some techniques that you teach so that we can stop going unconscious when it comes to our choices, and get conscious, and then start to go, wait a second, is this really going to help? And then how do we, do that pattern interrupt?
Well, I teach this sort of commando meditation. It's like very active, aware, not the kind of stuff that you're trying to do in order to go to sleep at night. But I never really, I don't usually tell anybody that they ever need to do much more than about 10 minutes a day. But the idea is that you focus on your breath and your mind wanders, guaranteed it wanders. And then you pull it as soon as you realize that your mind's wandering. That's that moment of mindfulness. You pull it back to your breath. And that is you actively changing your thoughts. So you were thinking one thing totally just by the fact that your brain is going to keep running all day, and then you forcefully put it back on your breath, and you do that as many times as you possibly can, whenever you possibly catch your mind wandering over the course of your session. I usually start people with just 3 minutes, and you do that every single day consistently, and you understand that out of everything I ever teach you, nothing is going to be more important. So I don't care if you tell me that you blew everything today. You didn't walk, you went to bed really late, you ate nothing but pizza and beer all day long. I'm still going to ask you why in the heck you didn't meditate, because you could have fit in your 3 to 10 minutes. And that's the most important part of all of it. And what we're doing in all of that is we're gaining the ability to see thoughts, because it's really easy to just stay in that river of thinking and get rushed down the river, bashed against all the rocks, thrown over the waterfall, and never realize that you can get out of that river and watch your thoughts. That, like the Buddhists say, and I'm not a spiritual dude, I don't ever take this to any place spiritual, but like the Buddhists say, that clouds can go by in the sky and not leave a trace, and that's how thoughts should be able to go by in your mind. And so you start to realize when you're just thinking. I walk into a room, a bunch of people turn their heads, they look at me. I go, oh God, all of these people just looked at me and I look like crap today. Now they're all going to think I look like crap and I just wish I wasn't here. Okay, well, everything up to the point of these people turned their heads and looked at me was fact. Everything after that was thought. And that all needs to be controlled. That all needs to be adjusted. The I'm going to eat some ice cream because I had a hard day at work is your inner voice emotionally telling you a lie about some sort of outcome, and you're buying it over and over again. So you have to be able to stop, just like you do when you catch your mind wandering when you're meditating, and then you have to change your thoughts, just like you do when you bring your mind back to your breath in your meditation. So a person has to log their time. It takes a while. It takes, usually at least a few weeks before somebody really starts to feel like what they're doing in their short little meditations starts to flow over into their life. But there is nothing more important. This is probably the part that people tune out the most. They go, well, meditation doesn't have anything to do with fat loss. Okay, but all of the things that you need to do for fat loss, you can't do without the mindfulness to be able to navigate them, because you're not supposed to have to do any of this. You're not hardwired for dieting. Dieting is not what you're supposed to be doing. Those of us that are making this work, we're weirdos. We're the crazy people that are acting completely against our human genome. But the environment has changed, and now we have to do that in order to be healthy and happy. Our ancient hunter-gatherer ancestors didn't need to meditate, but you do, because cruise control for you will mean type 2 diabetes and an early death with one foot. That's what cruise control will mean for you. But if you are present and you can think through these things and go, okay, every single fiber of my body is telling me that cheesecake is the right answer right now, except my little prefrontal cortex at the front of my brain where I manufacture my willpower, I'm going to need to have the presence of mind to access that, to override all of these things that are telling me that cheesecake is the right answer. Because it is the right answer. It was the right answer if something tasted good for 2.6 million years. But you have to do something else now, and you don't have a choice in the matter. Well, I mean, you do. You can stay unhealthy, but your only choice if you want to get healthy and fit is to create new habits in a world that is operating very, very much against your survival drives. So without mindfulness, how can you navigate that? This is not spiritual, I'm sitting on a mountaintop and lotus position giving guru advice. I'm telling you, this is how it actually applies. Things like stress, for example. You have a really stressful day and you're extrinsically motivated. When you're extrinsically motivated and you're doing this for everybody else and life gets you down, life will force you to be selfish. And when life forces you to be selfish, what do you say? The heck with the rest of the world. Wait, who were you losing weight for? Oh, yeah, the rest of the world. So what are you doing today? Eating cheesecake. This is the stuff that has to be addressed, but nobody's talking about it. And the only way to get there is to get the mindfulness through this actual brain exercise, these exercises that allow you to see yourself thinking instead of just going along for the ride. Make sense?
Absolutely. No, it makes complete sense. You're really opening us up to this discussion. I love that you're pointing out that we really have to go against our programming to diet because what is the status quo now is leading to one in three women having cancer, 1 in 3 people having cancer. 1 in 3 people are diabetic or pre-diabetic. Absolutely, obesity is one of the largest epidemics. I mean, 70% of the adult population of the United States is on at least one prescription medication right now. That is unspeakable. That means that only 30% of the population could be considered, adult population in the United States could be considered healthy.
And that's not even by like a definition of healthy that I think you and I would be shooting for. That's just a not sick definition.
Right. Exactly. So 30% of the population's not sick. It's really rare to see someone who is healthy emotionally and physically and got their stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I was amazed about, because I used to have diabetes, I reversed my type 2 diabetes naturally, using lifestyle change and food and some supplements. I did it. I had to do a major shift to accomplish that. And what I realized afterwards, now that I have total even keel, wonderful blood sugar, I'm like, I could not believe how much of my emotions were controlled by sugar. Sugar swings would make me feel anxious, depressed, angry, sad, hungry, lonely. I mean, it was just up and down and up and down. And it was like a magnifying glass. So whatever I was feeling, if I had a blood sugar swing, it would be exacerbated. And like you said, if we're just going with the status quo, eating the things that taste good, there's so much crap in there, that food, there's so much sugar that it's likely to exacerbate any kind of emotional stuff that they're also not dealing with. So, we're eating food that's toxic. We're not, like you said, getting present. And then we're, beating ourselves up by failing at all the diets we're on.
Yeah, and pretending that we were supposed to be able to do all this stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's as soon as people go, "Oh no, I fell off the wagon." I'm like, "Wait a minute. So you trying to tell me that you operated by optimum foraging strategy yesterday, just like every mammal on the face of the planet and every one of your ancient hunter-gatherer ancestors, and you ate something that was palatable that your brain told you had to be good for you, and then you sat down and conserved energy again like all of your ancient hunter-gatherer ancestors? Oh my God, you're such a loser." You know what I mean? Like and they'll just beat themselves to death going, I'm I'm not able to get up and do this thing that I don't want to do, that I'm programmed to not want to do, with this extrinsic motivation, and then do it literally 100% perfectly without a single mistake for how long? I mean, like, what are you thinking is going to happen? Like, I need to lose 20 pounds. You're going to get there and then be able to change? No, you're going to have to be healthy for the rest of your life, or you're going to gain that weight right back. You're going to lose it, gain it right back. So there's no long-term thinking on any of this. If you want to be great at something, because health is a skill, not a destination. Fat loss is a skill, not a destination. You are learning how to be this way. If you want to try to get to a place where you can keep this stuff, do you really think that the way to learn anything is to fire it up and expect that you will not hit one obstacle, You will run as fast as you can straight through the tape at the finish line. Who knows what happens after that? We're not even going to think about that, but that's what's going to happen. How's that working out for you so far? How's that working out for all of the people around you? You're not taking time to learn this skill at all. There's a bunch of self-abuse. There's a whole bunch of awful things being said every time you have to go bathing suit shopping, or you're going on a tropical vacation, or you're just brushing your teeth in the mirror in the morning. There's all of this self-abuse going on, and you're pretending that that self-abuse will turn you into something beautiful. It's like example I gave recently in a private coaching group. I was saying, let's say you are from here forward going to be the fat loss and life coach for a good friend. So tomorrow, I want you to start her off and just start training her exactly like you train her. So in other words, get together with her in the morning and go, it's really sad and disappointing that you've let yourself get this far. It really sucks. I mean, you looked fine when you were 18. Why couldn't you just maintain that? You really let yourself go. And, maybe you can be successful. I'm not 100% sure, but, let's just give it one more shot. Here we go. Let's just try this. So today, let's go eat some good food and make some good decisions. She's guaranteed to fail with that. She's guaranteed to. And then, if you hung out next to her all day, because you hang out with you all day, you would also have to do things like, so you're getting ready to go into a meeting and a bunch of your coworkers are going to be in there. I just want to remind you that they all think you look gross. I mean, you know that, right? You know that they all think you look gross. Of course you do, because you think you look gross. So, all right, let's go in there and make some good decisions. And then if they're not like all up excited and doing backflips over your presentation, it doesn't have anything to do with the presentation. You're fat and ugly. You need to remember that. Did you really just say that your presentation didn't go that well? No, they would have bought it from Jane over there, who's fit and healthy, but you're fat and ugly, so they all hate you. You need to stop at McDonald's on the way home. That is how you would have to coach your friend if you coached your friend the way you coach you. And yet, you think that somehow you're going to use those tools, loathing, betrayal, anger, angst. Those are the tools you're going to use to create beauty. Wrong. I guarantee you will not. I guarantee it, you won't. So, tell me how these head changes are unimportant and the only thing that matters is the right amount of calories or the right amount of cardio. I work with women all the time that are saying things like, I'm miserable in my body. I'm insecure everywhere I go. I've felt like everybody thinks that my body is unattractive forever. I feel like if I could change the way my body looks, it would just solve all of my problems. My relationship is always a little edgy. My husband tells me all the time I'm beautiful, but I know he says that because he's just got to be nice. He has to say that. And I think I might be teaching my daughter all of this stuff too. So Jason, can you help me fix all that by telling me how many carbs to eat? No, I can't. I could give you an absolutely perfect protocol if there was such a thing, and there is not, but I could give you an absolutely perfect protocol and you will fail. This stuff has to be fixed first. It has to be, or at least along with small enough baby steps on the physical side that you don't get so overwhelmed and throw in the towel. But you're not practicing. You're very self-abusive and you're extrinsically motivated. Which part of this is for you? How can that add up to you becoming that greatest violinist in the world? It just can't.
It's like they've done a study where they took all the lotto winners that they could contact, and they discovered that money does not make you happy.
Weird.
We all think it would, but even Mark Cuban was quoted saying to lottery winners, if you're unhappy now, money's not going to make you happy. You're still your problems are still gonna be there if you're just gonna you're gonna be unhappy with money. But he said if you're happy now, money will make you more happy. It's like you've got to whatever problems you have. It like you said, if the person doesn't have good relationships either with themselves and with others, being skinny doesn't all of a sudden make that go away.
Right, but it's the one thing that everybody believes. In psychology, this is called the hedonic treadmill, and it applies to everything. You have said numerous times in your life, we all have, oh God, when X happens, I will be so happy. When I get this job, this relationship, this car, to pay off these bills, whatever, I will be so happy. So you got that promotion at work. Did you float around for the next, to date? Like, are you just still floating around from that promotion you got 3 years ago? Just absolutely ecstatic, happy ever since? No, like you said with the lottery example, people in single wide trailers can win $150 million dollars at roughly the 2 month mark. When they do happiness surveys, their happiness is back to wherever it was prior to that. So you've been wrong every single time you've ever said that. We get elated over those things, but happiness is not actually affected. So why do you think it would be different with this? Oh, it is, Jason. It definitely is. If I lose weight, I will be happy. Do you see that in your world around you? Who are the women that are quote unquote there, where they are totally insecure about their bodies? And then they change their bodies and they're totally happy with their bodies. Who are those women? Who are those women that don't just pull out a magnifying glass and step closer to the mirror and get more critical of themselves? There isn't a line in the sand where at 30 pounds of extra weight, everybody gets insecure. Prior to that, everybody's golden. So you got to try to lose weight so you can get under that line and then you'll be happy. That's not the case. Gyms everywhere right now are filled with people with fantastic bodies who are neurotically freaking out, eventually going to completely blow out their metabolisms because it's still not good enough. Because getting thin didn't solve the problem of them not liking themselves. They didn't like themselves, and then they didn't have a body that they liked, and that body that they don't like thing is just what they're filling in the I don't like myself problem with. And if you change your body enough and you by some miracle could actually be satisfied with it, you're going to fill the I don't like myself bucket with something else. And those are the facts. That's how this psychology works. Broken heads don't get fixed because bodies look differently. Bodies get fixed because broken heads get fixed. That's how that happens. And when you look around, you can see it everywhere. All of us know people smaller and people bigger. And out of all those people, we have small people with great bodies who are just as insecure as we have ever been, maybe even more so. And there are bigger people that are happy as a clam in great relationships, fully confident. This stuff isn't related to the shape of bodies. It's related to who you believe you are, how you project yourself to the world, and then what your motivations are. If you're not motivated to lose weight, I'm not here to judge you. I could care less. I want you to be happy. I'm a hammer when you need a nail driven. And when you tell me that you want the nail of fat loss driven, I'll tell you how to do that. But I'm sure as heck not going to run around telling everybody that they have to lose weight. You can live your life however you want. But the majority of the world is running around saying they need to lose weight and doing it completely wrong, even on the physical side. But we're not really talking about that today.
You mentioned that I mean, all the self abuse that's going on and the quote unquote broken heads. What are some tools? And I love your meditation, the idea to get thoughts, to observe the thoughts and realize that they're not so. They're not what is so, and see the difference between what is so and what we're making up in our own head, because we typically will make up a big story about something, and it's completely not real,
Mm-hmm.
and yet we live as though it's real. What other techniques can we use to begin to heal, and stop hating our body or hating our life in a way that it creates that self-abuse?
Well, um, uh, you can by far the analysis that you get with the mindfulness, that being present, by far, like that's 80 to 90% of it. But there's some other things, and I have an exercise called an examining body image exercise in my book, Body Beliefs. Body Beliefs currently has a 5-star rating on Amazon for the hard copies, but I am so passionate about what I do. I give away the digital copies for free on my website. So all of your listeners can go to altshiftdiet.com. I think we'll talk more about that later, but altshiftdiet.com and just simply go to the sign up page. And when you join my email list, you will get that 5-star rated Amazon book for free. But there is a exercise in there, and I can't really give it away because it won't work. But the idea is to examine where your body image stuff came from. And I don't mean in that way that, my dad said really mean things to me. So let's get to the bottom of that. It's more about itemizing these things and then changing your current thinking based on that. So I come from a I've built sort of a very cognitive therapy type approach to this, where the idea is that when something is wrong, rather than blaming experience, we have to look at your wrong thinking. What sort of thinking did you take away from that? What thoughts have you bought into? Give you an example. A young woman, and this story's in Body Beliefs too, but let's say a young woman is in like 7th grade and, hit puberty, and some kids have you notice that other people notice your body, and some kids have been really mean to her because she's not the thinnest girl in class, and your rotten little punk boys find the insecurity in everybody, and that's their goal. And they blurt that out, and there's nothing really wrong with this girl, but she latches onto it because of what this kid says. High school comes around, and she doesn't get asked to prom. Her immediate assumption is, I didn't get asked to prom because I'm overweight. And then she looks around and she sees that the thinner girls did get asked out to prom. Perfect. That is exactly why I didn't get asked out to prom. I am overweight. In reality, what happened was, in large part, back in 7th grade, she bought into what those boys said. If those boys had ran up to her and said, "You have ugly wrists," she'd have been like, "And you're a weirdo. You're strange. I can't buy into that. You're not going to give me an insecurity like that." But if she slightly believes, or especially if she's watched her mom freak out about her own body, then she buys into this and believes that she's overweight. What does she do when she believes she's overweight? Well, other people are people that could potentially, when somebody approaches her, situations that could potentially be harmful, that could potentially hurt her. So she gets defensive. She puts her headphones in, starts looking at the ground, becomes unapproachable. When she does smile at people, they can see the insecurity through her smile. She's nervous, or maybe just distant, except around her closest friends, and she looks like she'd be a blast at prom. So none of that gets factored in. The only thing that gets factored in is, I became unapproachable and nobody asked me out, and that is clearly because I'm fat. And so these kinds of things need to be broken down. You have to go look at what are the facts behind what you believe about yourself. Dig into those. Another example, if I told you that every day of my childhood, my dad told me that I was an ugly kid. I was ugly and I was never going to be a good-looking kid. When you think about my dad, do you go, "Wow, he seems like a great guy. I got to meet that guy"? Of course not. No, you think, "Wow, that guy's a total jerk." And yet, oftentimes when I work with women, one person like that has created all of their insecurities. One person, either a relationship or father or somebody who told them awful things about themselves, and they believe those things. If I told that same exact woman the story I just told you about my dad, she would go, "Wow, that guy's a jerk." And yet, the jerk in her life gets put up on a pedestal, held in high regard, and she says, "That guy is such a great human that his opinions are going to narrate the inner voice in my head forever. That's how strongly I feel that he is right." Doesn't that sound crazy when you think about it in those terms?
I love how you frame it.
So this stuff has to be looked at with the purpose of you trying to figure out where you think wrong. The world isn't, yes, the world is broken, but the world isn't broken when it comes to what you think of you. You formed that in situations where you didn't have to. When you walked into that party and everybody turned their head and looked at you, I would be like, "Hey, these people all must be waiting for somebody. I guess I'm not that person." Or, "Look at all these people that are interested in meeting me," or whatever. We all have the ability to think and take away whatever we want. And if you've already molded something wrong, you have a lot of work to do to unmold it. But to just say, "This is just who I am. I'm a fat person. I'm a person who's mean to herself. That's me. That's who I am." You've now labeled yourself. You own it. And yeah, you are done until you figure that out, until you get to a place where you're going, "This is how I am right now. That's how I want to be over there. I'm going to get to work." And it's hard work. It's really hard work that you have to work at every single day for weeks, months, and sometimes years. in order to be able to make any substantial change. But how many diets have you done? How many years have you been trying to physically change your body without doing a damn thing to change your head? So, of course, it's hard, but it absolutely can be done. And you are willing to do hard work if if you've got 2 decades of trying to fix your body physically without ever trying to work on your head. You've proven that you are willing to work hard and under the right circumstances. So get to work.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason, for coming here and sharing that. Now, okay, so you've got the alt shift diet and you've got the body beliefs book.
Yeah, start with body beliefs. I mean, I've made it free. Nobody's got an excuse to not read it as long as they're willing to read it digitally. If you want to go buy it on Amazon, it's $15. But you start there. When somebody comes to alt shift and they haven't read body beliefs, I'm like, cool, grateful that you bought my book. That's great. Just please go read body beliefs first so that we can give you an actual chance at succeeding. This diet's hugely effective, but you're going to end up being one of the people that tells the story about how it worked for you for a while and then you blew it and you can't figure out why you quit.
If you don't go get the head stuff straight first. And I can't make that any easier for you. And then get alt shift from there. Read that. We've got a book called Alt Shift Lift that teaches resistance training that can be done very, very simply at home with nothing more than a bench and some dumbbells. So we keep it as cheap as we can. Because it's an ebook, there's videos in there that teach all of the movements. And I designed it for, my grandmother to be able to do, but it's also the way that I train, the way that I work out. So that's been super effective. We've got a cookbook. Alt Shift itself has 70 recipes in it. We've got another cookbook with another 40. But you've got to start with body beliefs. You have to start there. And every time I do a podcast like this, we always see this influx in the sale of alt shift. And that's fantastic. I love that. But I'm hoping that those people also downloaded body beliefs and they're gonna read that first before they go start alt shift. Sometimes I'll do a podcast and 20 minutes after it posts, there's new people jumping in our Facebook group asking questions about the diet, and everybody's going, have you read Body Beliefs yet? If you haven't, go do that. So just do that first. It's free, for God's sakes.
And they can get the book on your website, altshiftdiet.com.
Yeah, it's basically what you'll get when you join my email list. And you don't like my emails, you can unsubscribe. I mean, I hope you'll give me a chance. I do try to send out emails about every week, and I don't blog. I do all of that through my email list. I write stuff that I think will help my following, and I've kind of got a herd or a tribe going rather than a big, massive, loose following. And so we give a lot away. And then if you've read Body Beliefs and you've got alt shift and you understand it, I have a training community, online training program called Alt Shift Activate that starts every 7 weeks. It's 6 weeks of intensive stuff, like we've been talking about for this whole podcast, actual change stuff. But it also includes all of the actual tasks that you have each day as far as diet and exercise and all that. So it's me holding your hand, trying to get you to as much change as we possibly can, especially a lot of those epiphanies that happen in your head. And that's been really rewarding. That since I created that program, I've been much, much happier with my frustrating career because I've been able to actually be there with these people and help walk them through these changes and watch them have these epiphanies, watch them go, oh, God, yes, I need to think like that, or that's what I'm going to start doing from here forward. And, just being there with them and watching them change has been just super rewarding.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, I totally agree. Everyone should read Body Beliefs before they enter the alt shift diet because, like you've set it up, you the key is to shift your relationship with yourself and your thoughts, and that is going to directly affect your behavior, and your behavior directly affects your results. So it makes total sense. Can you give us a little insight? I'm just really curious. How did you craft the alt shift diet, and why is it so effective at weight loss?
Well, I was a trainer for, it was my primary source of income at the time I created Alt Shift for about 10 years, and as a secondary source of income for about another 6 years, and in and around this industry for 23. And I just it was a lot of trial and error. And I worked with a lot of different people on a lot of different things, and I read a ton of research. I'm constantly reading studies, and alt shift was something that sort of really slowly started to develop in my mind over a few years, and then came to me all at once. And I started testing it out on my wife, who she had our three daughters in just 3 years and 7 months. That's how far apart they all are. So everybody knows what that does to a body. And she was really at a place where it was just perfect for her to really be able to focus on everything, including exercise and everything again. And she had been lifting weights again for a few months and was getting kind of slow results and just basically eating a paleo type diet. And then we applied alt shift, and then she is the poster child. She's the one whose results are in the book, and the one that, as I was sharing her results little by little, was really building the hype over alt shift. And then when we launched it, it went crazy. I think we sold our first 1,000 books in about 13 hours, and that it's just an ebook. So I mean, that was all just done through my website. That wasn't even sitting on shelves in Barnes and Noble. So yeah, it was a slow evolution of a lot of years of looking at data and trying a lot of different things with a lot of people. I mean, I owned a gym for many years. I've only not owned a gym for a few months now, or a public gym anyway. And I have lots of clients who've trusted me for a lot of years that I've helped with lots of various things. And so I had lots of guinea pigs around. And so, you stare at this stuff long enough and patterns start to come out. Once we tested it out on Cheryl, I ran it on a group of 23 different women in my gym, actually a couple men in there too. And the results were just astonishing. So we wrote up the book and released it to the public, and the results started pouring in there, all the testimonials there too. And then everything since then has been really the culmination of all of the psychology work to make it so that these results stick for people and they quit quitting.
I love it. Quit quitting. I love it. Let's talk a bit about your website, altshiftdiet.com. So you have your podcast and you have the email list, which people definitely want to get on so they can read your Body Beliefs book for free, obviously. And getting into your Facebook community, how do people get into that?
It's a closed community. It's the only social media I really do anymore. Because I hate social media so much. It's so bad for women. And I've been pulling back from it more and more. And I can't really say right now, I don't know how long it's going to be before you put this podcast out there, but I'm working right now on another way for us to develop community without it being through social media and all the social comparison and everything that goes on there. But in our closed community, you can just go to alt shift, look up alt shift diet in groups on Facebook, and if you ask to join, you'll get asked how you heard about me, and then we accept everybody who doesn't look like a marketing scam artist, who, belonging to like 500 groups and things like that, and then we keep that community really safe. There's something like 65 or 6,600 people, something like that in that group. I don't know for sure. And it's, there's no trolling. There's nobody being mean to anybody. None of that stuff is allowed. And it's just a place for people to get together and be supportive of each other. But yeah, that's the only social media that I do anymore. And again, I'm trying to create a place where we can be more social and I can feel better about it without having people to have to open their Facebook app all the time and see all the stuff on their feed just to be able to get to us. So.
Wonderful. I love how conscious you are of all the different factors that come into play. So Facebook group, podcast, email list, anything else about your website we should be aware of?
There's nothing too exciting going on there. I mean, it's where you find everything that we do. But if you join my email list, that's how I communicate with everybody. I mean, that's the one way that you're going to know what I'm thinking about right now, what I'm working on. The huge majority of my emails are just me going, hey, I've been kicking around this idea or these thoughts, and I thought they would be helpful to you. And I'm not selling anything in them. I'm just, here you go. It's kind of like a blog post. But yeah, I mean, I quit blogging. That got frustrating for me a long time ago too. I feel like when you're on an email list, people unsubscribe if they don't want your stuff. So everybody that's there is actively interested in the things that I put out. And I don't have to worry about them missing anything. And I don't have to worry about anybody stumbling across this information and hating it and, you know, getting in the comments and talking trash or any of that. It's just me talking to people who want to hear from me. So that's how I do it now. And that's probably how I'll do it from now on.
Awesome. Why did you call it Alt Shift Diet? Is that's a play on Alt Shift Delete? Are there any other meanings behind the name of your branding?
Yeah, the diet alternates between two shifts of eating that cycle in a very novel way: carbs, fat, and calories. Does a few other interesting things too that you'll understand when you read the book. But there's multiple components of what we're doing, about 5 of them that are really important, and a few others that get played in, that all get basically what we're trying to do is more closely duplicate how we could mimic the way calories and foods and food groups might have been taken in by our ancient hunter-gatherer ancestors, rather than just saying these are the kinds of foods that they eat. We would also be able to say this is how they might have been able to take them in. For example, in my seminars, I used to always make the joke that, you know, if you're in a tribe 20,000 years ago and somebody brings down a hippo, nobody's sitting there going, so what's the vegetable and wine pairing with hippo? You know, you move the whole camp to the hippo, and you eat the hippo until it's gone or it is too rotten to eat. And that's basically because it created a vacation. Everybody's job was to gather food. You were hunters and gatherers. And so anytime that you don't have to go look for food is a day off. So you're not out there still gathering stuff while you've got this one food source. And that could mean multiple days of a situation that basically looks like a ketogenic diet. But then later on, there might be like the Hadza in Tanzania, they have a certain berry that comes into season at a specific time of the year, and they eat like 80% of their diet turns to this berry for about a month. So these types of things have to be considered. When you didn't have a
Mm.
refrigerator to just walk over and grab food, then you also have to think about how would the combinations of these foods be eaten? How would, if we were gathering these things and we put the effort out to get this, what is the likelihood that we also would have that? And so we start thinking in those terms in Alt Shift too.
The Tanzanians that you mentioned, isn't that one of the blue zones of the world where they have the most amount of people living beyond 100 years old, healthfully?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I can't say that. Maybe. I mean, Tanzania um, as a country, is pretty poor. So I'm not sure. The Hadza are one of only a handful of tribes that are still, or peoples, not necessarily tribe, but peoples that are still living as hunter-gatherers. I mean, pure hunter-gatherers, where they literally don't farm or trade or herd for anything. They live totally as hunter-gatherers. And there's, you know, not that many of those kinds of tribes left. And they're in those really remote regions of Africa and the really remote regions of South America and the Arctic, and a little bit in Australia, I think.
I think that's absolutely fascinating. Your research, because if you're eating like how we've been eating for uh, however many millions of years, then you're leveraging our own biology, right?
Yeah.
Instead of, because eating ice cream, although it triggers all those feel good parts of the brain, is the most unnatural thing we could be eating. We wouldn't we wouldn't have like gone up to a cow and suckled on a cow and then eaten something very sugary right after that. I mean, that doesn't just even the makeup of what it takes to make ice cream wouldn't have happened, a
Or
million
even
years ago.
even steak and potatoes.
I mean, think about it. Like people are, I'm a steak and potatoes guy. Those two words go together like diet and exercise. What are the odds of you getting a meat in a quantity and then also a starch in a quantity at the same meal? If somebody was gathering a bunch of starches and you brought down a big animal, those starches will keep until tomorrow when we may not have food. Right now, let's eat this animal because it's going bad. Think about those types of things have to be considered. I'm not saying that we just automatically vilify those things and go, well, eating starch with meat is what made everybody fat. But I'm just saying that that's not what you're adapted to. And all of that needs to be considered. You need to consider where you came from. And so far, paleo had only done that with what types of foods are eaten. And I came from that world. My first book was The Paleo Coach. And I just, Chris Kresser actually said it. He's the guy that wrote the Paleo Code. He said it best when he said, "Did you not get the results that you saw in the paleo brochure?" And it was because paleo was producing fantastic fat loss for some people and virtually no fat loss for others, but it was making pretty much everybody healthier. And people were going, "Oh, healthier, it's automatically a fat loss diet." So we had to turn it into a fat loss diet, and that required some other considerations.
What are your thoughts on calorie consumption?
Typically, when a woman comes to me, in order for her to get adequate fat loss, the average Western world woman, who's my client, usually means frustrated, yo-yo dieting past. That woman almost always requires an increase in calorie consumption before she's going to lose fat. Yes, I said increase. She's usually going to have to eat more food in order for us to get her to lose weight. And the reason why is because she's done so much starvation that she's convinced her body that life on earth sucks. It's terrible here, especially if she's done a bunch of cardio too. She's taught her body that there's not enough food to go around and that something is constantly chasing her, or that she is constantly having to work really hard to get the food that she does get. And her amazing, unbelievably adaptive body does exactly what it's supposed to do in that situation, which is what you would do in a famine. It starts protecting the food storage facilities that it has, its pantry, if you will, more than it would ever protect its bank account. It's really working hard to hold on to the things in the pantry, and your pantry are your fat cells. So you get that midsection squishiness. You lose as much muscle mass as you possibly can, which reduces metabolic rate. These women typically have slow thyroids. If they go get that tested, they will get put on a thyroid medication, even though their body's just doing what it was told. And so you have to create an environment for your body that says that life's pretty good on earth. The right foods come in the right quantities and in the right order, and we move in a way that is expected. We don't sit on our butt all day long and then for an hour go simulate emergencies in the gym. We move the way we're supposed to move, or we get enough regular movement that doesn't really feel like exercise. It's just movement, like walking. And then we use our opposable thumbs to move things around the planet, some sort of resistance training. And then we occasionally sprint in situations in which we would have to save our own lives, like running from a tiger. And there's various ways to do that besides running. And then we otherwise sleep and manage stress and get this food right. And our body goes, "Hey, Earth's pretty great. And we don't need to store all this midsection fat like it's the only thing that matters. Let's go ahead and lean out a bit." But yeah, more calories are usually required.
It's interesting that you bring up the stress response. So typically women have been dieting so much they've pretty much trained their metabolism to be under that stress mode, and conserving all the energy into fat. Think because the metabolism, this 2 million-year-old metabolism, thinks Earth sucks and we're starving all the time and we're in a famine, and staying in that stress mode is what continuously keeps us there. And you mentioned that the thing that you want people to do every day, regardless of what they eat, is meditate 3 to 10 minutes a day in your body beliefs program.
Mm-hmm.
And that meditation not only helps us to hear and become clear about the thoughts that we're having, but also to switch off that sympathetic nervous system response so that now we're finally out of stress mode. Being out of stress mode is also going to start to train the body that it doesn't need to store fat anymore. So I think that's interesting
Yeah.
that it's going to have that meditation for a few minutes, just basically, like you said, sit there, focus on your breath and watch your thoughts go by, is going to bring you out of stress mode. And it's also going to help that mindset mentality. So that mind body connection is both going to be affected. Your you've done a lot of really awesome myth busting today when it comes to the psychology of maintaining optimal health in terms of our weight and also weight loss. Are there any other myths you love to bust in interviews?
Uh, yeah, there's plenty of them. I mean, I just busted a couple others there with the caloric restriction and cardio thing. I prescribe no cardio ever to anybody. Nothing, no steady state traditional cardio. Like put on your Nikes and go pound the pavement for a half hour to an hour. I have nobody do that, and yet somehow I've got all these testimonials. Gasp! But the other ones are getting kind of mainstream now. Where the whole fat is bad and causes heart disease thing, I think, has pretty much been beaten. It still comes around from time to time. You still hear people try to defend it, but usually when you track them close enough, they're in some way related to either the American Heart Association or the drug companies. I don't feel like I'm I feel like I'm controversial, but I'm also just quietly doing my thing in my corner. Like um, when I've got a lot of myths that I can help you bust and a lot of epiphanies I can help you get, but I don't do that for indignant people. Like I'm not an evangelist. I'm constantly telling my followers, and maybe it's a bad business move, but I'm constantly telling people, don't evangelize.
As soon as somebody goes, well, why don't you eat bread? Oh, because gluten's bad for you and this and that. Okay, now you're in a fight. You're talking about politics and religion now. That's what you're on. You just
Mm.
put yourself in that. When somebody goes, why don't you eat bread? The easiest answer is bread doesn't make me feel good. Nobody can go, whatever, bread makes you feel great. You give them a subjective answer and keep moving. So I I guess I'm bad with that question nowadays because yeah, I mean most of what I do is contrary to the average advice out there. The weight loss community that starve yourself, pound the pavement, and don't even think about whether or not you like yourself or how that's affecting your journey. But I don't I don't take up that banner and go try to change the whole world's thinking. I'm not going to put myself out there and have a bunch of indignant people go, well, let's just sit here and attack each other for the next 6 months online, back and forth. And I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. I'm, like I said, I'm a tool. I'm a hammer when you need a nail driven. I'm not here to tell you that you need to drive nails. So, yeah, I mean, the epiphanies that I have on the physical side are all kind of out there to some degree. I mean, if you're just hearing for the first time that right now that saturated fat is not bad for you and that we've been craving it for 2.6 million years, I I don't know. I mean, I guess you're just now starting to come around to this what does a human diet look like subject, but I think the rest of us have at least heard that whether or not we agree.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I in the last few months increased my saturated fat by like tenfold, and I feel amazing. I cannot believe I that was the one change. I've already eating a whole foods similar to paleo, whole foods kind of ketogenic diet.
Mhm.
Really lots of great just natural kind of from the earth kind of eating, and I just upped my saturated fat through the roof. That's the only thing I changed, and I am falling asleep without any problem. Just like boom, 10 o'clock. I just get knocked right out. For years, they had to take melatonin. I wake up bright eyed, bushy tailed. I have so much energy. I don't know what to do with, and it's like constant energy throughout the day. And all I did was increase my saturated fat hugely. I could not believe it. And I got one of those, the like the My Fitness Pal app, and it always like freaks out when I tell it how much saturated fat I eat. And it's like in big red letters, like, you ate this much and you're not supposed to, like, whatever. It's just giant red letters telling me, do you know this is high in saturated fat? I'm like, yeah, that's the point.
Right.
And I feel amazing. So I think it's just so funny that they brainwashed us for the last, 40 years or whatever, that fat's bad. And you're right. I was really craving healthy fat. And I cannot believe how good I feel when I made that one change. I love your concept of focusing on, does it make you feel good? Like, honestly, feel good. Do I feel really good when I eat a giant bowl of salads with healthy fats, like greens and and just get me as many greens as I can, fill that bowl with healthy fat and avocado and whatever. I feel amazing for like 6 hours. My body's buzzing. I love it. So yeah, so I love that idea that you're saying to people, like, listen to your body when you eat a healthy meal. You're not doing it so that someone else tomorrow would tell you you look like you lost weight. You're eating that healthy meal because it's gonna make you feel amazing right now. It's gonna help you have a better sleep. It's gonna help you have more energy tomorrow, because what you eat
You
now is
deserve it.
also, yeah, and because you deserve it. I love that inward focus. Make sure you're inwardly motivated. And I also love your advice about when someone says, "Well, why don't you eat gluten? Why don't you eat dairy? Why don't you eat that cake or ice cream, whatever it is?" That you can just say to them, "It doesn't make me feel good." And that's it, because I've been gluten free for the last 6 years, and I've had those fights, and it's not motivating, and it does put up walls. And if I had just said, it doesn't make me feel good, I'm okay, I'm happy, you don't have to worry about me, I think I could have avoided a lot of stress. So I love your advice. You're so practical and you're really results driven. Jason, it's been wonderful having you on the show today. Listeners, please check out altshiftdiet.com. Get on the email list, get his free book, jump into his Facebook community, and join that wonderful support. I would love to have you back on the show anytime you want to
Sure.
come back and continue to share and continue this conversation. I think it's so powerful. I'm definitely going to read your book because I love your attitude and the amount of research and knowledge. And I just feel like you have such a huge heart and you're being so real and practical. And obviously, results speak for themselves. Thank you so much, Jason, for coming on the show. It's been such a pleasure today.
No, it was my pleasure. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Enjoy what you heard today on your episode of the Learn True Health podcast? Did something move you, inspire you? Did you get great information that's going to change your life? Awesome. That's exactly what I'm here to do, is to help you gain your health back. Please turn around and share this. If this is something that's helped you in any way, share this with those you love. Love the Learn True Health podcast and want to support us? Awesome. You can go to takeyoursupplements.com and you can support us that way. You'll get access to amazing supplements that are just really great quality for a great price. And there'll be someone on the other end of the line to help you pick out your supplements that are right for you. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Or join our membership, learntruehealth.com/join. That's another great way to support our podcast, support our movement, and you'll be supporting yourself. Gain more information, wonderful videos, wonderful trainings, and you'll also be able to share those with those you love as well. So go to learntruehealth.com/join. Want something fun for free? Go to learntruehealth.com, and right there on the front page, you'll see where you can get our free cookbook. I spent a lot of time making it, and it was so much fun. It's really delicious, healthy recipes. And you can also get our 7-day doctor course. Right there, it's 7 days of naturopathic videos sent right to your inbox, and you can learn from top naturopaths on how to gain health naturally. So that's takeyoursupplements.com for wonderful supplements. learntruehealth.com/join to join our awesome membership, which is only open for a limited time. You can get our free healthy cookbook, and you can also get for free 7 days of wonderful naturopathic videos sent to you. Just go to learntruehealth.com and you'll see it right there on the front page. Thank you so much for being a listener, and thank you for sharing and helping others. Let's spread this information and turn this ripple into a tidal wave.